right, greetings, Earthlings. This is episode 2 of the Galactic Visitor Center, and today I am so excited. We have a amazing guest, someone who has a huge TikTok following, a direct experiencer, and this is one of those episodes where we are so excited to have Gracie go on the record and walk us through her, I guess, numerous experiences at this point. But let's start at the first one. What happened? When did it happen? Where did it happen? And we'll go from there.
Spill
Okay,
the tea,
easy.
girl.
So I will leave nothing out. I got you. So I've always known that I was kind of like, I don't want to say different, but I was definitely a weird child. I'll just put it that way. And so as a kid, I always was kind of like, I stuck out like a sore thumb, basically. And when I got to high school, kind of similar, but I started finding my way. It was easier for me to make friends. And I was a junior in high school. This was 2016, I believe. And it was November. And I was driving back from a friend's house. And it was, I think, like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And I'm from Indiana, okay? And northern Indiana is where this happened at the time. And there's cornfields on both sides of me in the car that I'm driving. So I have a good view of, and honestly, behind me and in front, right? So I'm driving, and out of the upper right-hand corner of the windshield, I see this, like, I think it's a star at first. And that's because that's what catches my eye. I'm like, oh, like, what is that? And as I start paying attention to it, it shoots from being out in the sky and like flies past my car.
Oh
and of
God,
course,
that's crazy.
I'm still like driving, and I'm like, oh, what was that? And it was a blue. The blue is what I noticed first. I just know it was like bright, like a blue white light. And it, like, all I know is that it was out in the sky, and then the next second it was flying past my car. It never crashed into anything. It went like horizontally past me. And so that's why.
Which
you're fine.
direction? Like forward or backward?
So if I'm in the car and I'm driving forward, it whizzes past me like it's going the opposite direction. But see, that's what I really got my attention. And so when it didn't crash, I'm an environmental science. I mean, I was obsessed with environmental science even in high school. So I knew, if this was an asteroid or meteor, it should have crashed.
Right.
It should have hit and it didn't. It just flew by my car. And so that forced me and made me want to learn more. It made me question things, like how is that possible? What is this?
On earth is that? Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was my big, like, time to learn, time to start researching, because when you start questioning what's going on around you, that's when you like take a deep dive down the rabbit hole, if you know what I mean.
Oh, did you estimate?
What's up?
I think Marcellus is a little breaking up a little bit, but what I love about your story is it reminds me of some of those early scenes in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg. You know how like these things are just like tearing down a road in like the middle of like what state were they in? Like they were in like they might have been in Indiana actually, like they or Oklahoma or something, or somewhere where there's corn. Definitely corn.
Yes, yeah. So it was like above corn, and the size of it wasn't as big as you would think. It was just like a bigger ball orb of light, and it came from out the sky and by my car. And so it was just very unlike anything I'd ever seen before, but it wasn't anything like people talk about these giant spaceships that they've seen. It wasn't that big. It was more so that they were using an energetic light form to get my attention. And it was kind of their way of being like, time to do what you came here to do, Gracie. Like, wake up.
So cool. Yeah. So,
sorry.
So I love that, like, you have this like experience with this thing on the road, but then you get like information from it, right? Like I think from like one of your TikToks you had like you had a dream afterwards and like it kind of became more clear to you like what that was.
Yeah. And this was honestly kind of the turning point for me because at first I just thought it was like a fluke thing that I had seen. But within the next 2 weeks of that happening, I had two very like profound dreams. And one still to this day doesn't feel like a dream. I'll get into that though. I'm not going to give anything away before I talk about it. But the first experience I had, I'm in my childhood bedroom and my bed, like there's a window next to my head and there's a window at the end of my feet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I wake up in the middle of the night, I think, to this bright light shining in what I think is coming in through both of my windows. And it's so bright that I literally like, I take a gasp of air. And it's, you know, like when you're sleeping and something like, like startles you awake really
Mm-hmm.
quick. That's what happened to me. Okay. And I see this light shining in honestly all around me. And it's so bright. I like had to put my hand up to shield my eyes from this bright light. And when I do that, I have to look down. And so I look down and I see grays. I'm on some kind of bed. I thought it was my childhood bed, but I'm thinking I'm on point that I've done research
Mm-hmm.
on this stuff. But so I think I'm on the ship at this point, and there's grays like just chilling on the bed next to me. And I'm like, oh my God. And then that's it. That's all I remember from that one.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all they let me remember. I mean,
Sure.
but the second one was more profound and it gave me a sense of clarity and validated my experience, I think. So the second experience, it's in another dream state that I'm receiving this information. And I, this time, I'm like, because the grays that was in my first dream or vision or encounter, they were smaller. And you know, there's multiple different types of grays, if you didn't know that already. There's many different types of beings. But these grays were, I would say, like 4.5 feet. And so I'm almost like sitting cross-legged talking to them. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
eye level with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, I'm standing above them. Like they are directly in front of me.
Like you're crisscross applesauce and they're standing,
yeah.
but you're like
Mm-hmm.
at the eye level. Okay.
So, like, yeah, at eye level.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so telling me telepathically, you are going to be the one to tell humanity that we're here to help.
Wow.
And there was such a feeling of, I guess I want to say like friendship and family tie. I wasn't afraid. It was more so like we were just like a friend to a friend was having a conversation, you know? And I remember being like, oh, this is really peaceful, you know? But again, that's all I remember. I wake up, that's it. But
so you mentioned there's bunch of different grays. That's definitely consistent with other people's experiences. I obsessively like look into as many of these experiences that I can. There's taller grays, like the Betty and Barney Hill grays were taller, and they're like the Zeta Reticulans. Then there's the shorter ones that may or may not be a more of a mechanical biohybrid. I'm just regurgitating what other people have said. Did you get the sense that these were beings that were in any way mechanical, or were you getting the sense that they are fully like a biological entity?
so the grays, it can be a little confusing for people. And to answer your question, this all happened within like 3 weeks of my first encounter seeing that light while driving. So it all happened.
That's fast. Okay.
So that's why I was like, I wonder if I was abducted, and it's just, this is me recalling those memories. But
yeah,
I don't know. But going back to what you were saying, which could you repeat your question for me? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So did you get the sense that these were in any way mechanical, or like were these biological entities?
So there's some confusion with the grays because so many people have good experiences and so many people have negative experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to note that the grays, I think, are a very, very old species. And so you're not only dealing with the grays that are more, I guess you have to understand first how they were created. So the idea is that the grays are coming back in our timeline to help us not make the same mistakes that they did in their timeline. So they actually used to be very similar to humans.
Okay.
And I'm sure this. They used to be very similar to bodily in how humans function. And they thought it would be a good idea to remove emotion and love from their existence because they thought it would help evolve faster, I guess. And it didn't, because what do we know when a civilization evolves without love? They destroy themselves.
No, it's horrid. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened. So they got to a point where they couldn't reproduce. They couldn't make children. They were just these robot beings, essentially, because they have evolved without that necessary component, yin and yang, love and light. You know, they were missing that piece.
Sure.
And so they were still technologically advanced enough to know that they could come back to a time where they could still save their race and save their existence, which is why so many people, I think, and I'm not saying this is true, this is from my experience, you have people that have experience with negative grays, but those grays might not be advanced enough. They're lacking love. They don't understand emotion.
Right.
And so it's hard for them to convey emotion with humans who are very emotional, you know.
Right.
Have these experiences, and they're like they were mean, like they didn't show any emotion, but that's because they don't know how. Right.
It's a foreign concept. So, yeah.
But then you also, like, the greats that I work with are very much like wanting to help us save ourselves and help show us that what we're doing is going to end badly if we don't do something about it. And so I think that's why there's this disconnect, because we're really all just learning, you know, and we help each other grow, right?
Right. I know. So it's really interesting to hear you say that, because there's a lot of consistency there with other experiencers. I've heard it said that experiencers had these visceral emotional responses to an abduction, and the Greys were uniquely were really baffled by that, and they actually dialed back some of their abduction program, realizing this is causing trauma that we're not getting. So I've definitely heard that take. I've also heard takes on the Greys where there's just so many different ones. They've propagated themselves throughout so many star systems and planets that they really are like wildly different. Like there are Greys that went down this like mechanical, emotionless evolution. There's some that didn't. There's even some that were supposedly so far down that line of just going fully mechanical that they really didn't have what we would consider a soul anymore. And their technology was so advanced that they realized, oh, this is important. We need this. It's a part of like metaphysics. It's a part of being. It's part of consciousness. And so some of their interest in us has been, how can they use our intense emotional feeling soul to kind of bring their race back on that track.
I actually heard something similar that basically said that
I agree.
They want to, like, it's kind of counter to your theory that they want to avert their whole going into the gray. They want to be gray. They see it as a great alternative. They're like, because we're the masters of science, we're the masters of technology. And so they're actually coming here to instigate nuclear war, to try and get each country to fight each other so that they can obliterate each other. And then it leads to that timeline where the Greys become who they are, you know, after who knows what happens after nuclear war. So, I mean, I think it's a very interesting theory. You know, it's who knows what their true purpose is.
So, okay. So you're outnumbered here because Gracie and I are both going to be like, no, they are trying to do the right thing.
Say regarding his comment.
Oh, please. Yeah. I don't want to speak for you. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. But actually there was a time, you're not wrong. I think it's Zeta Reticuli 1 or Orion. There was a group of Greys that had a malicious intent. Okay. But that timeline has been solved.
Rogue separatists.
What's up?
Rogue separatists.
Interesting.
Is that what you're saying? Like a group of people who went rogue?
From how I've come to understand it, there's many groups of beings. If you want to kind of look at it like the Galactic Federation, that was one of their jobs, was to kind of merge that timeline, make it positive, and kind of bring us all into an era of harmony and peace. And solving that issue, I'm not saying we're not still dealing with it, but I know we don't need to worry about it. Yes, because we're on a stable timeline right now.
Interesting. Well, that's a relief.
Yeah.
I
And
have three
it really
little kids, so I was hoping that was the answer.
Yeah, we're on a stable timeline, and all this stuff happening in our world today is because all the gunk of our society is finally surfacing, and that's how we get rid of it.
So,
Right.
and that brings up a perfect time to ask you: are you aware of the galactic revolutions?
Oh, Marcellus. First of all, that's the next question that I wanted to have for Gracie, is that we need to actually talk about what other experiences she's had. She's telling us about like the first couple that got her started, but like it goes deeper. So that I'm really glad you brought that up, because she can actually speak to that, I think.
I can. So you're asking about the Galactic Federation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So honestly, I view the Galactic Federation as like the UN of space, which I know sounds bizarre, but hear me out. So
it would make sense.
Yes. So humans are a really young species compared to a lot of other beings in this universe, beings that have had time to evolve over thousands and millions of years. They are much older than the human race. They have been observing. They are now making sure that we don't destroy ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have help.
Yep.
We have a lot of help. And so there are like branches of the Galactic Federation. And I have a whole website. It's called the Ashtar Galactic Command. And he is just one commander, I believe, of many that exist in the Galactic Command. But the Ashtar Command is like a chunk of that. And the Ashtar Command has been working really hard of bringing people to this planet and helping raise the vibration and consciousness of Earth.
That is amazing. Okay. First of all, can you plug that website? Like just say the and we'll put it up on screen.
AshtarCommandGroundCrew.org.
.org. Okay. We'll flash that on the screen. Because that is something that I think people should check out. And so I don't mean to just jump in, but what is so exciting to me that you're saying that is it aligns with so many other like points of view. When you dig into like Dolores Cannon, right? Like she's talking about that. She's talking about the volunteer. She's talking about people who are coming to raise the vibrational frequency here. So that's so cool that like that's very consistent.
Yeah, it's all connected. So the 3 waves of volunteers, right? The first wave came in the 60s. Those were like the beginning of inserting light and trying to raise the planetary vibration. Second wave came in the 70s and 80s. The third wave was the 90s. I'm a 90s baby. So
I don't want to go too far, because I feel like anybody listening here is going to be like, what are they talking about? So
that's
all right.
I can
So
talk
we've got
for hours about the 60s revolution.
Well, yeah. So that like it does tie to stuff like that. But so let's at a base level kind of cap what that is. So it's multiple sources. Dolores Cannon using regression hypnosis. Gracie's having this experience or these messages. I've seen other people talking about it too. JK Ultra on TikTok, who's amazing. Like she's my favorite. She's so good. There's so many different perspectives talking about these people who, and it's not even people, it's souls that are, have had incarnations in other places, other galaxies. There's Andromedans, and there's extra dimensional people and higher levels
I
of
definitely
being.
feel like I was on another galaxy. Like I feel so foreign here.
You
So
should explore that. It helps puts the pieces of your existence together, I think. It's very helpful. Just roots you in your own being. Because we're really all just souls having a physical existence, right?
absolutely.
We're having an experience on this planet. We're being. You're
Yes.
absolutely right. Beings having an experience.
But we're infinite beings, all of us. And
Yeah.
we've forgotten,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Remembering though, that's the key.
So for anyone who's like listening, there's all these people volunteering, or people, souls volunteering to incarnate here on Earth right now in this timeline to help, as Gracie's saying, to elevate everybody's consciousness to, I
We're
guess,
all serving a role.
right. And so Gracie, we were both quiet because we didn't want to interrupt you, but like when you were saying like you were like a different kid, like we're both sitting here going like, oh yeah, we were totally fucking weird. Like we were
I
so weird as kids. Like,
if there's anything, I know Clancy knows who I'm talking about. The great Ron Bennington.
yeah,
If he were listening, or if he was here in this conversation, he would say that's who you want to be friends with, the weird kids.
yeah,
Like those are the
absolutely.
David Bowies, those are the
Yeah,
Princes,
yeah.
those are the what's that dude that made all those amazing movies in the 70s? Oh, I can't think of it. He had a really strong name. Whatever.
I'm there
Um,
with you. Yeah.
but yeah,
Creative
all
like
those are
people.
the
Yeah,
creative people. Those are the
yeah,
weirdos. It's like
yeah,
the
yeah.
cool people, quote unquote, are usually not at all cool. They're pretty boring. They're
Right,
just staying
right,
to the mainstream in order to stay popular.
right.
Yeah.
My kids
Look,
come home from school calling each other weird, and I'm like, that's a great thing.
You
That's
high
so
five.
good.
High
Like,
five. Yes.
you have done right. Like,
Hmm.
that's true. We just need to change the narrative. Like, look at the power that we have.
yeah, yeah. So it's so fascinating to hear you saying that, because it is corroborated from so many different sources. And one of those sources that's super interesting that anybody listening um, should go and just digest as much of this material as possible. But like, go read Dolores Cannon, like, because it's gonna really blow your mind about like who we are in reality, what we actually are. um, and I want to use that to go into the next round of experience that Gracie's had, which is with this hypnosis. And I wouldn't even call it regression, right? It's not regression because you were going forward in time,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
So one thing I've had to truly just integrate into every cell of my body is that time isn't real. Okay. We
Oh, hell
experience
yeah.
time linearly on this planet because that's the matrix, if you want to call it. That's what keeps us in the system. Time is the system. We wake up 6 a.m., we go to work, we come home. I mean, yes, we get it. Time. But it was, in order to truly understand what I was seeing, I had to understand that the past, present, and future all exist right now.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
time is
Yeah.
all, like, now is all there is, basically. So it was important when she was telling me, when we were doing the regression, she said, this might not be in the past, this could be in the future, or it could be in the past. That doesn't really exist when
It's
you leave.
like irrelevant, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
She was like, it's just an existence and it's an experience that you had.
It just
is. Yeah. And so, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say that's almost like deja vu to me is maybe something of remember something you haven't done yet. It's simply because time doesn't exist. You have done it. It's just you're getting kind of flashes of you doing that thing way into the event. So it's like a precognition. Like, oh, here's something I'm going to do that I don't even know I'm going to do.
Absolutely.
I'm told that deja vu is a sign that you're right where you're supposed to be on your timeline.
And like that, we've run out of time. Please join us in our next episode where we continue our conversation with Gracie. Thanks for listening. Here at the Galactic Visitors Center.